It's fair to say things did not go according to plan for the Galway senior hurlers in 2021. They finished the season winless after defeats to Dublin and Waterford. And after what looked like a very promising start to the campaign, they looked very good in the National Hurling League. They got that win over Limerick. They looked like perhaps the side that looked closest to beating Limerick in the Championship. But in the end, they were beaten by Dublin in the Leinster Championship in a very flat performance. They were then beaten by Waterford. They finished the Championship season winless for the first time in God knows how long, and certainly for a side that many people expected to challenge for the All-Ireland, it definitely went down as a massive disappointment. But Galway have made big changes ahead of 2022. Shane O'Neill no longer the manager, and in comes Henry Shefflin, none other than the Kilkenny legend himself, multiple All-Ireland winner, multiple National League winner, multiple Hurler of the Year winner, All-Star winner, you name it. And of course he's won multiple All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship titles with Ballyhale Shamrocks, not just as a player but as a manager as well. And he comes into the fold for Galway in 2022. And today I'm delighted to be speaking with Paul Shaughnessy of the Backdoor GAA podcast. We're going to be previewing the Galway senior hurlers ahead of the 2022 GAA season. We're going to be breaking down how they might get on in the league. Can they catch up to Limerick? Can they improve what was a very disappointing 2021 season? So if you do enjoy this content and you enjoy the season previews and whatnot, leave a like and subscribe, and let's get straight into it. I suppose moving on to the hurlers and the Galway senior hurlers, I mean, I suppose we have to start with Eddie Shefflin coming in there. I mean, that was definitely one that shocked the nation or shocked GAA fans all across the country, because I think everyone was expecting Davy Fitz to come in. It looked like it was a done deal, and a lot of people probably maybe weren't too happy about that. But you know, commit the man, commit the hour, and in comes Eddie Shefflin right at the final moments.
Yeah, Aaron, anyone who tells you they expected this would be lying to you, because no one did. It was totally unexpected. Like the night before, Davy Fitz there's a lot of kind of WhatsApp rumors and whatever going around, and his management team was being named, and then Henry Shefflin, nearly like a player, comes out of the blue and is appointed manager, and it's great, to be honest. There's such a good feel good factor now around Galway Hurling. Like, he's a player I would have watched growing up, and it broke Galway hearts in 2012. Just, I suppose, scraping a draw really by himself against Galway the first day out, and now to be over the Galway Hurlers. And like, a lot of these players who are playing now would have looked up to Henry Shefflin and what he's done with Ballyhale Shamrocks, winning those All Irelands, and threw a lot in with Thomastown this year as well in the Kilkenny Intermediate Championship. And by the looks of it, he comes as a highly regarded manager from Kilkenny, and I think Kilkenny people, you see when he got appointed, the different kind of ex-players talking, they were talking nearly hurt, because he is a player that everyone was expecting whenever Cody goes, he might be the man to step up. And when Galway do meet Kilkenny, Henry Shefflin against Brian Cody, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, well, that's one of them things you can't wait around forever. And you've seen Cody this year, it looks like he's almost building for the future. It doesn't even look like, he's, the rumor mill is that he's going to still be around for 2 or 3 years yet. So, I suppose Eddie Shefflin has to get cracking with his own managerial career, his own intercounty managerial career at some point. Obviously, there was Davy Fitz rumors there as well. Do you think it's a better appointment then than Davy Fitz? I don't know where you stand on it, but definitely the Davy Fitz sort of coming into Galway definitely split a lot of opinions anyways.
Yeah, no, it definitely did, to be honest. There was kind of a lot of talk around it. I just feel with David Fitz coming in, he likes to play this kind of intensity game, and his style, I just don't feel it would have suited Galway Hurling. But it still would have been a fantastic appointment, because Davy Fitz's record speaks for itself. And now he's thrown his lot in with the Cork Camogie team this year. So it's just showing his hunger to still be involved in the game. But I just think someone like Henry coming in, especially for the younger forwards, just even be taking snippets of advice off Henry Shefflin as a forward, it can help the younger players in this team really progress their game.
Yeah, and looking back at it last year, where do you think it went wrong for Galway? Because having beaten Limerick in the league and having looked so good in the league, and then you obviously got beat by Dublin, a game that you would have been expected to win. Waterford, probably a lot of people would have expected Galway to win that one as well. So where do you think it went wrong? Like, I think it was the first time since the early 90s that Galway finished the championship season without a win, in a season where I think a lot of people expected Galway to be the closest team to challenge Limerick. So where do you think it went wrong?
So hard to know. Like as you mentioned, the league was so impressive. The way they just blitzed Limerick that day, and I think maybe when I look back at it, it was probably putting too much into the league, going hell for leather at it, because the performance against Dublin in the Leinster semi-final was so flat. It's just so disappointing. There's no energy, there's no spirit, and they just faded away. And then the Waterford game, they showed character that day, but just bowed out in the end. And I think that's the most disappointing thing for Galway. Looking back on their two championship performances, but there was positives as well in Shane O'Neill's tenure. Like he did bring through players that we hadn't seen in a Galway jersey before, but like I still feel there's enough talent there in Galway hurling to be competing.
Yeah, and you had Joe Canning obviously stepping away as well and retiring. Do you think he'll be a big miss for Galway in the next couple of years? Or do you think maybe it's time they move on from that and start bringing through more younger players? And I know Evan Nyland's probably just as good on the frees as Joe Canning is. So, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's an outstanding hurler to be honest. Joe Canning was, and he carried Galway out of games for years, and now he's thrown his lot actually in with the Galway minors. So I think that's great as well. Like for these minor players to have Joe Canning involved with your minor team, and Henry Shefflin then at senior level, and Brian Hanley has done tremendous work as well. But yeah, I know like Joe would be a big loss. Don't get me wrong, to the dressing room, and it would have been great to see Joe Canning play under Henry Shefflin. They battled it out for so long against each other, but it'll be a big loss. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's time for the other players now to realise like it was obviously great to get over in the line in 2017 against Waterford, but like it just shows if they don't keep competing year on year, for a lot of these players, it can quite frankly fall away. And there's a lot of players now that weren't on that 2017 team that really want to get their hands on in All Ireland as well.
Yeah, and I suppose you do have plenty of young players coming through the ranks at the minute, like Evan Ireland, like I mentioned, and Brian Concannon, and I'm sure you have a good few under 20 players coming through at the minute. So, I'd imagine this year probably be a bit of a transitional year in some ways for the Galway hurlers in 2022.
Yeah, Eden Harris slipping away there during the week as well. It was another another terrific servant. Yeah, but as you mentioned, it will be a transition period at the start of the year, I think, for the league. But I think once championship comes around, I think transitional phase goes out the window. You're either good enough or you're not to win a championship game. I get sick sometimes of managers using the word transition. Like it's fair enough, but for your business end of your competitions, you don't use it as an excuse or anything, which I'm sure Galway won't or anything. But it's just a lot. Some managers do use that phrase nearly too much in the media. But yeah, no, like there's definitely a lot of young players there, and the players are here. We've seen the minors, the 20 success. You mentioned Brian Cannon, Evan Island, Fintan Burke he'll be another year with intercounty experience as well. Shane Cooney's built up that experience. There probably will be one or two from Thomas's, maybe Oisin Flannery, corner forward, could get called in. He's been impressive for Thomas's. TJ Brennan from Clarenbridge, he would have been kind of in and out of the team. Even the goalkeeper last year, Derek Fahey, made his championship debut against Waterford when Aidan Murphy got COVID, and he was very impressive that day. So no, there's huge talent here in Galway. It's just there's a lot of expectation in Galway hurling, and it's really time now for them to kind of live up to that expectation, because we've seen the minors and 20s success, and it'd be great to see some of these minors and 20s breaking onto the team this year, which I feel they will. I feel when Shefflin comes in, there's going to be maybe there could be a few surprising omissions from the squad at the start of the year, but I just think maybe with Shane O'Neill, he was moving too many players around the pitch, like moved Dybert to centre back, Gareth McInerney to full back, and there's maybe too much moving going on around. But yeah, no, it's still it's an early start, as I mentioned, with the football championship and 5 round robin games as well in Leinster. It's going to be a fairly hectic schedule once Galway get going under Henry Shefflin.
How do you think they'll treat the league as well? Do you think they'll be, obviously they went quite strong in the league last year. Do you think they'll go as strong this year, or do you think it will be a case of bringing through those young players, trying out the under-20s and whatnot?
I think really most managers are going to have the same approach in the league. With the round robin coming in, it's not really manageable for, say, if you're a team in the Leinster Championship, 5 leagues in the game. You get to league semi-final, you get to league final. That's 7 league games. That's 5 games in Leinster final. That's 13. So 15 competitive games throughout the year. It's not manageable to go all out. So I think the league doesn't really have the same value in hurling anymore, which is disappointing because it was a great competition, and I think they'll probably try a lot of new things. Players maybe in different positions, new players who've been impressed throughout club championships, and players who've been there at underage. I think that's their approach Galway will probably take this year.
And where do you stand as well in terms of the round robin? Would you be in favour of the round robin? Do you think that could help Galway as well? Maybe get more games, I suppose, against the top teams as well, more games against Kilkenny, Wexford, Laois, Dublin, and whatnot. And obviously, who was it? It was Westmeath who were promoted as well. So, yeah. How do you think that will go as well? Do you think the round robin is better, or would you rather see maybe the straight knockout that we seen last year?
I'm in favour of the round robin. I think it's great. As I mentioned, with that training that they're putting in, they're getting the games that they want, and I think it's great. And I think the Munster as well in the round robin, it's just fantastic. And especially summer hurling, even some of these games are going to be April, so it's going to be earlier for a lot of these teams. And I think particularly at least in Munster, you're getting that bye. It's 5 weeks for a lot of these teams to be playing their games in the Leinster Championship. So, with the round robin, you see a lot of teams kind of maybe using different players and stuff, because it's just obviously in Leinster at the moment you have 4 teams who are at a level and 2 who are trying to get to that level. It's obviously Dublin, Kilkenny, Wexford and Galway. I don't think there's much between any of them. They're at that kind of level, and it's Laois and Westmeath. Now Laois are going to be buoyed by Klopp out of college success. So they had a lot of players last year that they're missing. If they get them back, they're going to be trying to get that level. And obviously Westmeath as well won't want to go straight back down to the Joe McDonagh like Antrim did. So it should be make for an interesting Leinster Championship.
100%. And when you look at the last couple of years as well, maybe not last year in particular, but the years previous, and your battles with Limerick in particular, I think the reason why a lot of people would have Galway is maybe the closest team to beat Limerick, is obviously you beat them in the league, but you think back to the semi-final in 2020, that was a very close game going down the home stretch, could have went either way. And even 2018, I know they blitzed you quite early on, but you nearly came back and beat them. So do you think Galway are maybe in that kind of bracket of teams, maybe underneath Limerick, or where do you think you're at the top of the pack or in the middle, or what do you think?
I think if you said to me instead after the league game last year, I would have said Galway are the team to match Limerick's physicality, but they've probably took 3 backward steps since. So I think they have a lot of work to do before people can say they're the team to go after Limerick. I think the gap in hurling is quite large. I think the performance Limerick gave in that All-Ireland semi-final against Waterford, the comeback against Tipperary, they're really setting the standard, and there's a lot of players probably that are on that bench for Limerick that'll be starting for a lot of intercounty teams. I don't think there's one team you can say that are the team to go after Limerick. I think if you take Limerick out of the championship, I think there's a lot of teams that are kind of around the same level. I mentioned the top 4 there in Leinster, and then the 4 other teams in Munster as well. I don't think there's a lot between any of them, and I think it's just Limerick are just ahead of them at the moment, and it's up to teams now to try and get to Limerick's level.
Yeah, so Limerick are still the All Ireland favourites, and in your eyes, anyways, I suppose, to make it three in a row now, which sounds crazy. Like, before you know it, they'll be creeping up on a potential 5 in a row. Like, it's kind of mad.
Yeah, no, it'll be, if they want it this year, it'll be 3 in a row, and it'll be 4 in 5 years. So yeah, no, that's quite amazing stat. But it's just the thing about the Limerick players. Whenever they're interviewed, they're so humble. They know this success isn't gonna last for a while, and they really want to try and get the most out of this success while they can. But I just think it's their panel in general. Like, Graham Mulcahy's been outstanding for Kilmallock. He's not getting in. Robbie Hanley's been good. There's Richie English, Pat Ryan, David Reedy. Like some of these players are outstanding hurlers. Conor Boylan, Jerome Boylan, David Dempsey, Adrian Breen. Like, there's some fantastic players there, and they just can't seem to break into that Limerick team. And I think that's great for John Kiley when he's trying to keep that hunger going, that there's always player constantly challenging the players on the pitch.
Yeah, like, he could nearly make a second team of Limerick, and maybe they wouldn't go and win the All Ireland, but I'm sure they'd be close enough, and I'm sure they'd be up there challenging in the Munster Championship. Like, it reminds me a lot of Dublin in terms of the depth of the panel that they have. They just seem to have an option for every position, which is kind of incredible. Is there any other teams there you think that could maybe go on a bit of a run, or cause a bit of a shock, do you think, in 2022 in the All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship?
I think Cork made obviously progress last year. Would be interesting to see with let on Ireland final performance. How is it going to impact them? Clare are going to be massively boosted by the return of Peter Duggan. I think that really like because they were kind of just missing that one forward, and I feel like Peter Duggan now coming back in will strengthen things. Tip under Colin Bonner, he's been doing a lot of trial games, and we're probably going to see a lot of the similar to Galway, a lot of the Tip kind of under 20s. And then Waterford, Pork Banny's back, and maybe even 1 or 2 more Ballygunner players thrown in. So I think, like as I've said, there's not a lot between any of them Munster teams, and then it's up to getting to Limerick's level. Kilkenny, is it 2 or 3 All Ireland semi-finals now they've lost in a row, so that's going to hurt them. Galway be thereabouts. Wexford under Darragh Egan as well. We'll probably see new sprinkling of talent, and Dublin are obviously making progress in the hurling, and probably see the Currys from the FINA in with them this year. And if they can add 1 or 2 more as well, I think teams will be able to get to Limerick's level, but it's just a matter of who. But I don't think there's a lot between the rest of the teams then.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, look, it will certainly make for some excitement about football and hurling when it comes around anyway, when the league comes around and when the championship comes around. Look, listen, Paul, cheers for coming on. Pleasure talking to you as always. And I'll link down Backdoor GAA down below for anyone to check it out and make sure they can subscribe. So yeah, cheers for coming on.
Thanks a million, Aaron.